Hello everyone. I have completed the build out of my Ikea Detolfs to display my 6 scale inch figures. Super happy with it. Gosh, it probably took me, it's going to sound a little crazy, but maybe 6 months, maybe 5 to 6 months. A lot of that included, I would say, a good couple months of just research, seeing what's out there, getting inspired by all these other great displays that collectors have, custom built ones, ones you just buy off the shelf at Ikea or other furniture manufacturing places, and then just researching. Okay, what do I have within my space? What's my budget? How much can I spend on this? And kind of what's the effort? I'm not a handy person at all. I can, barely work my way around with a screwdriver and a saw and things like that. I usually have to hire professional help if something breaks at the house or on my car because, I don't know how to fix that stuff. I'm okay with that. I choose to spend my time on other things rather than, as I was growing up and stuff, rather than, learning to do that stuff myself. And I'm okay with that. So anyway, so I had to consider, kind of what my skill level is and the cost and stuff like that while researching. And, ideally, I think in the future, many years from now, this wall here would be custom shelving from the top all the way down to the bottom and, across the entire side. But for now, I came up with this stopgap solution. Extremely happy with it, like I said. Before, I had one shelf kind of just over here I think it had 4, maybe 5 shelves on it. One light just right up at the top. It would kind of shine down, and, the figures that were displayed on the lower shelves would get blocked by, the shadows and stuff from other, that were up above them. So it wasn't ideal. It was a really nice cabinet. It lasted me, gosh, probably a good 6 or 7 years, and just decided it was, time to move on and get something that I could really enjoy for the next, handful of years until if I ever decide to go ahead and have someone, custom build a solution for me. So yeah, there's a couple months of research, getting inspired by, the community and what everybody else is doing. And then probably a good month of just kind of really sitting down and planning what I wanted to do. Like I said, I'm not a handy person, but there are certain requirements that I had. And I'll go over some of those here in a little bit. Some of them were kind of around, each shelf unit. I wanted to have an individual light within that, and I didn't want to have wires that were noticeable and stuff like that. So I'll kind of talk through some of those once I get done with this intro here, and I'll kind of move in and get a little closer on the display. And so kind of planning and designing when my approach is around how I want to modify these. As well as part of the planning is how much can I fit along this wall, and where do I want it along the wall, and how high up. So it's a little dark. Oh, actually, this might come out. But I researched risers, and again, heavily influenced by the community, 1/6 scale community, and seeing some great solutions there on what they did, and kind of took that and put my own little kind of twist on it, on what I wanted to do for the risers. Let me get a little better view. It goes all along the wall. And then, of course, I got the displays, and at the top, probably can't see it, but they are also mounted or braced to the wall. I live in Southern California. We have earthquakes and stuff, unfortunately. So just want to be careful there in case someone was in here, or watching a movie or playing a game. Last thing I want is for these glass shelves to fall on them. So all of that was part of kind of the research in the planning phase. And then I spent probably about a month or two, probably closer to 2 months, building this thing out. And again, all of this is just in my spare time. I work full time. We're a family of five. We like to go to Disneyland and do fun stuff. So just when I had, a free evening, or maybe the weekend when I wasn't mowing the lawn or cleaning house or going to Disneyland with the family or watching movies or whatever, I would work on this stuff. And I'd spend, maybe 3 or 4 hours here and there. This past weekend when I finished this, I think, let's see, Friday evening, I probably spent about 5 hours, and then Saturday morning, maybe another 3 or 4 hours, for example. And that just kind of wrapped it up to where I'm at right now. But that was my typical weekend for about 2 months. And so you add all that up, and it's probably about 5 months. Sounds a little ridiculous, but I'm super happy I invested the time. I kind of really thought about what I wanted. I researched it, I planned it out, and then I executed. And I took my time. So as I'm building these things, modifying them, if I needed a break or had to run to the store to maybe I didn't quite have the right piece, just I did it. And I made sure I was doing things the way I really wanted to do them. And again, love the results. One example is the original lighting. I built one of the Detolfs, and I modified it, which I'll show here in a second. And I put the LED lights on each shelf, so a total of 4 of them. I got it up, and I was happy with it, and I turned it on. It looked great. And I sit down here in this chair right in the middle. That's my chair to watch a movie, which is right there's the TV. And for one, Detolf, the lighting was okay. It was kind of a tiny bit distracting. So I gave it some time. I played some video games, watched maybe another movie. I think I watched some of Defenders. Was out on Netflix. And I just decided, by the time I get 5 of these shelves up with this amount of lighting, it may or may not be a little bit too much. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to pull a shelf down. I'm going to invest in dimmers. So I pulled the shelf down. I took almost all of it apart. Actually, before that, I researched and found dimmer LED lights with remote control. And got those installed, tested it, super happy. It's great decision. I did that. I'm glad. I wasn't wanting to rush through this and really kind of take my time and make sure what I got is something that I could be super happy with. Here in my theater room, I love this room for many years to come. So it's things like that I was really thinking about and considering and doing as I went through this process. Here, let me go ahead and just show the example. So here's the dimmers. So I usually keep it about where it's at now, which is 50%. But I have this little cool remote, which you can't really see because it's dark. But I have one I keep right at the doorway, and then another one I keep, a second remote that I keep by my main chair that I usually sit in when I'm gaming and watching movies. But if I have it at 100%, let me just do that. There we go. So at 100%, it really looks awesome, especially for stuff like this in the video. And, kind of really lights the room up. So it could be a little distracting when watching a movie, maybe playing a game. So I keep it at about 50%, which is here, but it can actually go really low. So there's 25%. And it could go all the way down to, I don't know what that is, maybe 10%. But for purposes of this video, I'll just keep it, I kind of like it at 50%. But for this video, for now, let's keep it at 100 because now that I look at it here on my Galaxy S8 Plus at 100%, it looks really nice. So we'll keep it at that for this video. Another thing I was thinking about, and this was actually something as I was building was I wanted to consider not just the overall layout of the cabinets and where they're positioned and kind of the gap between them and hiding the wires and all that kind of fun stuff, but also what's the background? And one of the requirements going into this is I'm calling it display unit, but each IKEA Detolf has four shelves, and I have 5 of them. So I have 20 areas where I can display figures or groups of figures. And I call each one like a display unit. So I have a total of 20 display units that can display a figure or a group of figures. And I wanted to keep each unit isolated, kind of its own focus when looking at that. Glass shelves and stuff along the side and things like that to help keep dust out is another thing that I totally wanted. But trying to think of a creative way that a person that is not handy like myself can come up with a way to isolate each display unit on its own. And as we get a little closer, I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that, and you can see it from here. But the point I was making is, okay, as a whole, if each unit is its own kind of display cube, how does all that look together? And so in Photoshop, I created a 5x4 grid of the 20 display units. I started playing around with the placement of the different colors and came up with this design, which you see most of the backdrops are all black. We have 3 red ones, and then in the bottom corner some really light gray. They almost look white here, but they're a really light gray, maybe 20% gray. And just started rearranging those till I got something as a whole unit balanced out to something I was really happy with. What you don't see here, which is a work in progress, is kind of right in the middle, right there and right here, or what I'm calling kind of designed backdrops. So the internet is just full of, and the community is just full of these amazing pieces of artwork. And so I searched around and I found some great work by artists. And I take that and that inspires me, and I created these custom backdrops. And let me actually just get a little closer. And in these custom backdrops, it's some type of environment and with a flooring. So there's a background in the floor, and I go in Photoshop and I kind of design it to make it as seamless as possible, where the floor will kind of transition into the background. Of course, you see the line because I have to cut it and install it. But to make that as seamless as possible. So that is something okay at is Photoshop. I love using that tool. I've used it for, probably 20 years now. Showing my age a little bit here. In college, I was majoring in graphic design and stuff. So I am really comfortable doing that. And like I said, there's just so much amazing artwork out there now that I just kind of really wanted to leverage that and just create these kind of self-contained environments within each of these display units. So let me go ahead and step back. So once I'm finished with this overall design, we'll have 3 more of those designed backdrops. And how it's going to go is I'm going to have one right here. I already have one here. I have this one here, which actually I think I'm about putting Thor in that one. I'm going to have another one here. And going to have another one up here. I only have one that's close to being finished now. It's this kind of cool urban brick wall, kind of really beat up looking. Another one I've just kind of started on, but it's kind of more of a beach jungle scene, which could be used for all kinds of stuff. I could use it for some of the Rogue One figures for that cool scene, where the AT-ATs and stuff are coming, that that battle outside. Or I could use it for some modern military guys or Predator guys. So I keep that stuff in mind too, is when designing these backdrops, that what's something that I could use for a variety of different figures. So yeah, that's kind of the overall layout. And what I really like about it is this is just mat board that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'd use a coupon or whatever, and it was about, you could put the coupon stuff, probably about $8 for this giant sheet, and that giant sheet can produce maybe 2 or 3 kind of backdrops and floors for the cubes. And so yeah, and I just measured and cut it out, and how the backdrop attaches is just little magnets, and I'll kind of show that once I get a little bit closer. So let me just kind of start, and of course, as you guys know, there's not too many figures in, and actually the figures that are in were just from my old display for the most part, that I would just kind of put in this cabinets as I would build, just to see what they would look like, because I was so excited. I'll consider them in this, as I start to populate this with actual figures. But for now, the only 2 that I really kind of have placed are this First Order Stormtrooper here on the red, which I thought looked really cool. Kind of a, white and black figure, really great contrast on the red, which is, very much the First Order color, is that kind of black and red. And I think in the other red, which I have over here, I'll probably put Kylo Ren. Then I got another red down here to help kind of balance out the overall layout. I don't know who I'm going to put there, but that's part of the fun of it. Like I said, just got these built, and now I'm at that super fun phase where I am figuring out what figures I want to put where. Do I want to put them up high, down low? What color do I want them in? What environment? It's all open, and I love being creative, trying to be creative here and have a lot of fun with it. But he is actually the first figure I placed. I wanted to see how they looked on the red. Pretty happy with that. And then the other one is this Soldier Story soldier here that I just put on black. And he's not even fully loaded out with gear and stuff yet, but still think he looks pretty cool just on the plain black. Like I said, I'll probably put Thor here. That's actually the Avengers Tower right in the middle in the background. Beautiful image I got on the web. And kind of while I'm talking about it, the floor, the kind of rubble is from a Gears of War Xbox game screenshot of just some rubble. And so I use that. And, of course, I scale it, and I do color correction so it really blends in with the background and stuff like that. Same way with this one. The backdrop is actually a screen capture of Ubisoft's The Division game. Love that game. And I forget where I got the ground. It was a Google search for, I think, wet pavement or something like that. And I did a lot of kind of color corrections and scaling. You can see kind of the wet highlights going, kind of like they start here, but then they also blend up here into the background. Same way here is a little bit of like highlight and sheen from the pavement, and you can see it also on the background. So that kind of stuff. And also here is just some fun little, let me actually open up the door here. Some fun little things I'm just kind of playing around with. Just some little, shredded up debris, newspapers, and stuff like that are just in here temporarily till I figure out what I'm doing. And I found these really cool 6-scale bricks and blocks and stuff, cinder blocks, that I wanted to see what they look like. So I ordered some of those, and probably what I'll do is I'll probably go in and modify some of those as well. Keep some clean, but also, beat some up and kind of weather it, maybe break some and stuff, so I can have some little debris scattered around some of these environments. So again, that is a big work in progress. All of this is a work in progress. I just have those 2 figures placed. these other ones, we'll see where they go. They're just kind of temporarily up there for now. So that's my display. Let me kind of get in a little closer and kind of talk about what I ended up doing. So let's just start at the very bottom here in the risers. These fit 5 Detolfs almost perfectly. So one of my requirements was I didn't want this bottom shelf all the way down on the floor. You know, if you wanted to see it as a use, you know, as somebody here in the room, you have to kind of bend down like this, and you know, it's just not ideal. So I wanted to raise them up, and I wanted the top shelf about where the top of it is about 6.5 foot. So I'm 6 foot tall, and let's see, this is my eye level right here, which I think is perfect. Now I'm a little taller than average, so other eye levels may be right about here, which is also awesome. So I wanted to consider the different eye levels. Of course, you know, if the kids come in, well, the boys are actually almost my height, but you know, if Hannah's in, her eye levels like maybe here. Same way with my wife, which is all good, and they could clearly see the bottom all the way up to the top. So I wanted risers, and I wanted them about a foot up or so. These ended up being 15 inches, which, you know, that works just right. And another consideration was what, you know, how well are they going to be able to kind of have 5 Detolf sitting on top of them in kind of the gap in between the space of each of the Detolfs. And these risers worked out just perfect because the gap going around the edge of the riser to the Detolf and in between each Detolf is about 1.5 inches. So math-wise, it just kind of ended up being the perfect size. These are Besta. Actually, I think they're TV stands at Ikea. They're actually multi-purpose. How Ikea kind of all their stuff's modular, so they have them for kitchen cabinets and all kinds of stuff. But they're also TV stands. And what I did is I added these kind of doors on them, so you just didn't see the shelves. When you open the doors, what I ended up doing was building some additional support for these things. Oh, there you see it. So there are 2x2 beams that run in the front and back of each of the 4 cabinet areas. There's a total of 2 risers that just sit side by side, but each riser has two cabinets. I just built that additional support and kind of, you know, mounted them there in the bottom and stuff. I got a little tool for the backdrops and a little cloth to help keep the glass clean. Besides that, I don't really use them for storage because I put this extra support in. I can't really fit figure boxes in, but you know, that's okay. So I did that on all of those. So I just wanted to be extra cautious that they could hold the weight and stuff. And knock on wood, it's been a day. They seem to be doing okay. So that is and then the other part was making sure the risers kind of fit evenly between the door and the wall over here, and they do. And the final one is here on my theater room chairs. They're also on a riser. And so the risers that I used for the cabinets had to fit between right here, the seat risers and the back wall, and these fit perfect. I mean, I can't open this door because this riser's here, but whatever, that's fine. I don't really use these doors, like I said, because it has the additional support built in. So that was the research behind the risers. That's my subwoofer behind it. So fortunately, I had space for that as well. And then you know, there's the cabinets themselves, the display cabinets. So we kind of talked about the mat board. Let me just show something here. Just kind of pop open. And this is just, you know, it's just mat board, like I said. This just sits on the glass. You can actually see the wire there for the dimmer LED light, which I'll talk about here in a second. And this just has a little magnet right there. It just boop, snaps right on to these little metal beams, the ones in the back. And I didn't get that one on exactly where I want it to be. I tried to get them lined up. There we go. It just snaps right on. So very modular. So that's kind of part of my thinking was I wanted these backdrops and flooring so I could easily just pop them out, swap them. The mat board, like I said, that you can get at Hobby Lobby and other places like Michael's, tons of different colors. So if I want to pop this out, put like, say a blue one in, or a white, or a, you know, purple, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. With the coupon and stuff, you can get a huge piece of mat board for maybe, you know, $8. I think it's probably 10 or 12 if you want to pay the full price, which is perfectly fine. So it's a pretty inexpensive way, in my opinion, to allow for a little more creativity when displaying the figures. And how I did these are, you know, I kind of talked about the creative process and all the inspiration from the greatest artists in the world that are creating these things that inspire me and help create these kind of visual environments for these figures. It's the same black mat board that's down here, but I designed these in Photoshop as one big giant kind of rectangle with the background and the floor in one image, and then I kind of create that seamless transition between the two with you know, color correction and stuff like that. If anybody's interested in the Photoshop files or the final JPEGs, then just let me know. I'm very happy to share those. But I created those. They got like the cut marks to where they need to be cut. And then I just go online to walmart.com and print a poster. And the poster size, I think, is like 26 by 30 or something like that. So it's bigger than what this space is here, which actually works out well because it kind of leaves enough room to put crop marks to know where to cut them and stuff like that. So I get that. I think it's about $20 with tax or whatever to print the poster. And so between that and a piece of mat board, you're probably looking at, you know, I don't know, $28. So that for me is getting a little expensive. So, you know, I keep it limited to, like I said, I think I'm going to have 5 for now. But they're also modular. So it's the posters, and I use like a spray glue, and I spray it on the mat, and then I put the poster on the mat board, and then I use like a T-square and a box knife or X-Acto knife. I just cut it out and pop them in. Same thing, it's magnets. You know, this is the mat board, you know, just like that, and it's got the poster glued on top, and just pop it in. It works out, I think, great. I'm really excited about all the shells, but in particular these designed ones. Working on some other ones. And again, I can see these being swapped out over time, just like with the figures. Is, you know, maybe I get sick of this environment, or the figure I want to display just doesn't quite go with it. It's like, well, let's, you know, box this Avengers looking one up and maybe create another one. And I love to, you know, design and stuff. So I think over the years, I'll probably end up with who knows how many of these. But it's part of the fun, part of the process. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is to, you know, this investment in these figures is, you know, all of us know they are not cheap. And when I display them, I kind of want to kind of give each figure their own dedicated space. And sometimes I want it, you know, just kind of plain black, like this dude. Sometimes, you know, hey, let's have some complementary color that kind of surrounds them in the backdrop that really kind of helps make some pop, or helps add to that isolation of that figure in that environment. And then the other ones is, hey, let's create this cool kind of almost like a diorama type of environment. And I have some little 6 scale kind of diorama pieces, and you guys kind of saw down here, there's some bits and parts there I was just kind of goofing with, but doing stuff like that. And maybe one day, I see some people that create these beautiful pieces of art, 6 scale dioramas that are just amazing out of, I don't know, some type of foam, and not quite sure exactly how they do it. And I just started watching YouTube videos. So maybe I'll get there someday, maybe not, but that's maybe something I say for when I retire. But if it's something I want to do over the next couple of years, I feel I now have kind of the home to do that. So if I create something, I can create it, the 11.5 by 15 of in the 15 by 15 cube, and I have a place to display it. Whereas before I had this, I didn't really have that place to display. So that's kind of the cubes. Kind of earlier, I gave a little sneak peek on the lighting. So what I have are these dimmable LEDs, and you can probably kind of see it a little bit in the video. You see a wire running from the LED to the back corner. And what I ended up doing is, let me go to the side, is all these Ikea Detolfs have this little, it's really hard to see, but this little L-shaped plastic piece. It runs from the top to the bottom that helps hold and kind of bind the sides, the left and right side, to the back piece of glass. And so what I ended up doing is, I don't know if you can see it. Probably can't. Maybe you can see it. But right in the back, right there, I drilled a little hole in that little plastic piece. And I did that for each shelf. So each of those little plastic pieces in the back that run top to bottom has 3 holes I drilled. 1, 2, 3. All on just the left piece. And that light has a cable that runs to that hole and then goes behind it, and then they're draped down, and all the wires and stuff come together and actually inside these riser shelves. And the cable that came with the lights that I have is white. And I thought, I'm just going to paint it black to help kind of disguise it. All the shells I knew I wanted going into it to have, I don't know if you want the mat board above it, but like a black kind of roof to this display cube. So the cable blends in really well. I mean, in this video, it's actually a little brighter than it is in real life. In real life, I really have to kind of bend down and squint to see that cabling. And then, like I said, the rest of it just kind of runs behind it, which is another reason why I wanted to have these backdrops and flooring. So it worked out well. So not only does it hide, for the most part, all the cabling for the lights, but one of my, kind of really my first requirement going into this was I wanted something that would individualize each of my investments in these figures to its own kind of isolated view. So I could see it just like that. And then the top light was actually the easiest one, because I could just drill a hole in the top of the Ikea stand and run the cabling up through that. And then I just used some double-sided sticky tape, and I tried a couple different ones. I forget the one I ended up going with. If anybody's interested, I can, just send me a note or whatever, and I can share the brand that I used. I had to go look it up, but some of the lights were kind of falling off and stuff. So I did some more research, and I found some type of tape that would work sticking to glass. And that stuff is sticky, but it works so far very well. This first shelf has been up with that tape for probably 6 weeks, and none of the lights have fallen. So I'm super happy with that. What's also good about it is, even though it's like super sticky, is if I wanted to remove a light, I mean, I could get it off. It would take a little bit of work, but I can get it off. So it's really nice tape. Something I wanted to mention too is, when I got this first cabinet together earlier, I talked about the lighting maybe being a little bit too much, so I decided to get the dimmers. Actually, before that, I had discovered that the lighting, which was originally right in the middle of the display unit, was in a position where it was right on top of the figures, and I didn't realize it until I saw it and put some of the figures in. The light would cast these really dark shadows on the figures if they were in the middle of the shelf, because the light was directly above them. So I ended up redoing all the lighting configuration on this first shelf, and I moved the light out to about a third of the way from the front. So it's actually about 4 inches from the front of the shelf inward, which then casts, I think, a really nice light on the figure that in almost all cases will pretty much be right in the middle of the display unit. Some of these environments, yeah, they may be off to the side, or I'll probably put like a Chitauri soldier and Thor kind of battling here. So I may have multiple figures and some debris and stuff, but overall I like that positioning of the light, being a little more closer to the front, cast a little bit better shadows. So there's that as well. So now I'm at the really fun part of going through my collection. I'm very fortunate and thankful to say that even though I have 20 display units here, that I'll still be rotating figures in and out. Very thankful that I have more figures than I do areas to display, and I like that. Well, of course I love that, having tons of figures, but I love being able to, once I get this full and stuff, over the next, probably couple months, is, maybe I get a new figure, I'm really excited about it, and, it's time to kind of temporarily retire, one of the figures on display. So I'll gently take them out and, dust them off and box them up and put them where I store them, and put the new one in. And then, just kind of rotate them out. It gives me an opportunity to keep my display fresh, keep, maybe one figure per shelf, maybe 2, if there's a battle, maybe 3 or something, but keep it fairly clean looking, not too cluttered. That's just my personal preference, and rotate them out. It keeps everything fresh, and I'm the type of person that I don't have to display everything that I own. I do have some holy grails, and I'm kind of a sissy, and I don't even want to take them out of the box. I kind of have to work towards that, because they are the holy grails, and they're so expensive that I'm one of those collectors that sometimes I just want to keep them in the box, but I really want to display them at the same time. So I challenge myself there, but overall I usually display quite a few of them. So looking forward to really starting to populate the shelf and stuff. And I love seeing the communities showing off their displays and stuff. So once this is complete, I have the 3 additional kind of design environments here, and going to have one here and here, and the rest of the figures in. I'll make a showing off my display video. I love seeing those. Hopefully you guys will like to see mine as well. But I'm guessing it'll take a couple months. Designing those backdrops and stuff take me a little while, and setting up the figures. I like to take my time. I like to enjoy it. Some of the simpler ones, like the First Order Stormtrooper and stuff, is I'll spend a weekend with him, and kind of have him and display him and tweak the pose and stuff like that until I get what I like, and then put him up, and then usually a couple weeks later I tweak the pose. And some of these more involved figures that have lots of bits and pieces, I just take my time assembling those. I love doing it. It's kind of like as a little kid building models and stuff, and usually I have them on the kitchen table for weekends at a time, for a weekend, and start to put together. Sometimes, I could start to get a little frustrated when little straps and things pop off and stuff like that. So I just step away and I just do it until I have fun. And maybe that's 15 minutes, maybe that's 30 minutes. I need a break. And if I don't finish at the end of the weekend, that's fine. I'll, kind of clean up the kitchen table, and then I'll break it back out the following weekend whenever I have a chance. It's fun. I love doing that. So it'll take me a little while to populate this, but I am perfectly fine with that. Take my time, do it when I'm just having fun, and not, sacrificing, family time. Like if we wanted to go to Disneyland, the beach, movies, things like that. That stuff's my priority. I love doing this, but got all the time in the world to do it. I'm in no rush, but at the same time, I'm anxious to get it done. I just want to do it, the right way, and for me, and take my time. So that's really about it. This video is way longer than I anticipated. I thought maybe it'd be like 8 or 9 minutes. I'll probably have to do 10 takes or whatever, but this is actually the first take. So I'm really surprised by that. Hopefully this turns out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or any suggestions on how to make this better, please just let me know. I love talking about this stuff. Thanks for watching.